Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASIS strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report.
Welcome to a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us on Global Morning this very Monday, first work day of the week. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. We're coming to you live from Global Television in the very capital of Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, of course, the world's most populous black nation. Nigeria, and this is Abuja. My colleague Queen Agaba is on the show with me this morning, so we're getting your Monday on the right path together as a team. So Queen, again, it's good to see you on the show.
It's good to see you too on the show.
Right.
It's a beautiful Monday morning.
It is.
As usual, we're here again to kickstart the breakfast show. But I want to believe that you had a beautiful weekend.
I did. For someone who had looked forward to July, I mean, today being the first. Happy New Month.
Happy New Month.
By the
Happy
way.
New Month.
All right. So I had looked forward to this, and it just added to the beautiful weekend, like you call it, that I had. And I was able to stay away from work altogether on Saturday. That doesn't happen every time. So once it does, you got to grab it. All right. I think that was a highlight for my weekend. And then I also realized that it gave me time to reflect on many issues, personal, work, my country, Nigeria, for instance, and I saw a video of a guy who was saying that if you did Jakba, for our viewers who may not understand that concept, all it means is those who leave the country in search of greener pastures, all right, whether it's in Europe or America, Oceania, wherever. All right, so the guy was saying in the video that if you left this country a year or two before now, you have no idea how much you've done for yourself, because $1 had not gotten this crazy at that time, and overall the cost of traveling was cheaper and all of that. Ordinarily, it should be a video that makes you laugh, helps you to relax on the weekend and things like that. But I think I found deeper thought in it, how that we are at a point in our history as a country where people no longer have to make a choice between whether they want to stay back here and see this country work, or they want to go abroad, travel overseas, and live in the diaspora and maybe look at things from that standpoint. It's just more like a one-way traffic. I know people who never thought of traveling beyond, maybe for training, for education, for visits, and maybe tourism and things like that. But today, all of that has done a 360 degree on us. People are now probably just telling themselves it's a one way out. Here, the idea that I must travel is almost like an aspiration, like an ambition now, to say, more like a yardstick to measure, if you like, social status. As if you have not left the country, you're either making a poor choice, you're making a very fundamental mistake, or you're just living in denial, that sort of thing. And add to that, how that we are now having professionals being begged by regulatory bodies, by professional associations to say, don't leave the country, stay in the country. I think that in itself should worry us.
It should worry us. But like we've always mentioned here, one of the reasons why people leave is not necessarily because they want to leave, but factors that we consider for them might be very crucial and necessary. Take, for instance, if we're talking about relocating, people are relocating because one of the reasons will be security of their lives, security of their properties, security of their investments here. Because like I always say on the program, that one policy here, we've seen that happen time and time again, can take a person 5 years back, 10 years back,
or even
longer, and it can just bring your business to ruin all of a sudden. And so people are leaving because they want to go to a climb that they consider safe for them, safe for their investment, safe for their businesses. They want to go to a climb where there's, duly followed HMOs, where particularly safety. Like we say here, no nation can thrive outside of security. No nation, if we're talking about development, if we're talking about growth, we're talking about investment, before we talk about bigger things and doing creating infrastructures, building schools and everything, if there's no security, adequate security on ground, all of those things at the end of the day will be in futility. Because what is the essence of building roads? What is the essence of putting up mighty structures? You know, what is the essence of trying to revive businesses, pumping money into various sectors, agriculture, when farmers cannot even go to their farms? You know, farmers are running away from their communities because of headers clashes. And so one reason for most Nigerians who want to leave or who have left the country, they tell you is that, at least I know, we know that, of course, we have issues of insecurity here and there. In the UK, someone can walk up to you, and especially where guns are legalized and all of those things. But you know, you see that the cases are less. The cases of kidnapping, terrorism, in fact, you don't even have, some places you don't even hear of those things. But here in Nigeria, it has become a constant. We hear it in the news, we hear it even with your security. So it's not even a case of the poor being harassed, being threatened, being kidnapped. Even the rich and mighty. A man is leaving his shop, a businessman is leaving his shop, even with security, he's ambushed and he's taken away. It was in this same Abuja, and here on this show, we read a news on the front page of the paper where a retired general, was killed in his house.
Inside an estate.
Inside an estate. What happened to his allies? What happened to the estate security? How did that even... And then we look at the people who, when they were paraded, the suspects who carried out this heinous crime. We look at them, they don't even look like people who are, you know, equipped enough to have done all of those things. So, but we begin to just ask ourselves, how, if an army general is not, the life of an army general, even in an estate, is not guaranteed, what is the fate of an average Nigerian walking on the street? So I think people are jabbering because they think that Nigeria is not sane enough to accommodate them.
I think this discussion, if we want to stay on it, will probably never end. But there are several angles to it. It just gives concern every time you talk about it, because these same Nigerians, and there are millions now, would be here adding value and so on and so forth. So even think that at some point, not so many of them are enthusiastic about coming back home, maybe to contribute. Let's be very clear, the bulk of these people are not pushovers. All right, they are not non-entities. These are people who already had established credentials here, people who were already, to a large extent, accomplished in their various fields of endeavor while they were here. So that's the same capacity, competence, and skill set they had taken abroad. And then they are adding value in their respective countries on account of those. And then we're here, the best we get is maybe remittance, diaspora remittance. But the question is, how far does that really go? Okay, we're going far on the program already, no doubt about that. But it's time to take a deep breath, relax a little, lean back, and just unwind with Fatimi Umar as she brings us an episode of Taste and Texture.
Adalu is simply the combination of stewed beans and corn. Hi everybody, welcome back to another savory episode on Taste and Texture. I'm Fatimi Abowman, who would like to have a mouthful of lip-smacking, scrumptious, aromatic, flavorsome and palatable delicacies. Stay with me and let's make this delectable Adalu meal. That's protein punch and a meal you don't want to miss out on. Adalu is a Yoruba corn and beans porridge, native and popular in Yoruba land region, Benin and Togo. Incredibly delicious and incredibly filling. It is comforting meal, not too complicated protein punch. It's deliciously savory and doesn't require a whole lot of finesse to make. It is a delicious fusion of stewed beans and corn. It's nutritious, especially when you don't add too much palm oil. Adalu is a Nigerian food mainly eaten by the people of the western part of Nigeria, the Yorubas. The original name in Yoruba is Ewa Ati Abado, and it's called Agwa na Oka in Igbo language. It's basically one of their delicious dishes. The combination of beans and corn gives it the name Adalu, Ewa Ati Abado. Adalu is beans and fresh corn cooked together with local seasoning and spices. Most Nigerians love this delicious meal. It is rich in protein and carbohydrate as well. And the ingredients needed are 2 cups of raw beans, 2 ripe plantains, pepper mixture blended, tatashe, rodo, and tomatoes, palm oil, onion, 400 grams of fresh corn or more, salt, seasoning cubes, ground crayfish, optional. And now let's make it. Beans take longer to cook, so avoid adding salt while it's still hot. Always add salt at the tail end of your cooking. If you have a pressure cooker, it cuts down the time and saves energy when used to cook beans. If you don't have a pressure cooker, add potash to the beans as it also speeds up the process. Add chopped onions to the beans, cover with enough water and bring to boil until soft, 95% done. Add sliced plantain and cook for another 10 to 15 minutes. Add more water to beans if need be. Place a pan on medium heat. Add the desired amount of palm oil and heat for about 5 minutes. This process is just to get rid of the curdling taste you get from uncooked palm oil. Add palm oil, pepper mix, salt, fresh corn, crayfish, and seasoning to the beans and cook for another 10 to 20 minutes till all ingredients are well combined. Stir in between to mash beans and avoid burning. Serve adalu with gari or any other side dish of your choice. It is delicious and pleasurable to your taste buds. That's it on today's episode of Taste and Texture. See you same time next time for another luscious staple. Bye.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for bringing us the installments. You know, that combination of maize and beans, I don't know, it tastes like, I can speak for them separately. Maize on one hand, beans on the other, but combination, well, we're going to find out. That sounds like some sort of adventure for me, but what is life without adventure? All right, thank you once again. We're talking agriculture today is a big talking point for us on the program, all right? Because I remember in my first year in school, my HOD, who was also a lecturer, of course, had said that when you see a country that is up and forward, a country that is making progress, you know that one of the things that have brought them to that point is the fact that they've been able to conquer hunger to a very, very, very large extent. Yes. As of today, unless we want to live in denial, the indices are very clear. Nigeria hasn't conquered hunger. And in fact, we're still at that level. We're still in that phase where we are asking ourselves, are we ready to conquer hunger? Are we ready to put in the commitment?
That's where hunger is flogging us.
Exactly. Are we ready to put in the work? I mean, come on. All the indicators are there and they're very clear for everyone to see. Again, unless we want to be emotional and sentimental about this conversation. So today we want to look at agriculture from not just about who goes to farm, who doesn't go to farm, but there's the security element in it. You know, I have friends from states up north where you have several, in some cases, countless communities where people can't go to farm for insecurity reasons. These are not farmlands that were stolen. These are their legitimate farmlands. These are farmlands where even generations have farmed. But they can't go back there now because of insecurity. We've heard of cases where you have to pay certain levies for even bandits and Boko Haram soldiers to allow you to come to your own farm, all right, to pick crops. So let's not talk about those ones that are destroyed, damaged by herdsmen and so on and so forth. So these are concerns that we have with regards to agriculture. And then you want to move it up a notch higher and talk about whether or not government is really making investment in agriculture. That's an open-ended question. And then you're asking yourself, what has happened to all of the initiatives we've seen regarding agriculture in this country? FADAMA 1, FADAMA 2, FADAMA 3, and so on and so forth. We've seen the World Bank come to support agriculture in this country. We've seen different development partners across the world come here to support agriculture. We're seeing budgetary allocations and releases to agri-specific projects and initiatives every year, right from 1999. I mean, if we have to start from there, let's even take away the military era for a second, and you are asking, is the output we've seen, are the results we have recorded commensurate with all of this investment of time, money, energy, and expertise so far?
I think that the question should be how well spread these resources have been, how well spread they've been. And sometimes we hear of the allocations, like we always say, the resources that is put. We hear of there's so much going on in the agricultural sector, so much. Every time we hear that they're disbursing funds, every time we hear that there are fertilizers, free fertilizers for farmers, every time there's just a lot going on. So one would think and expect that our agricultural value chain will have blustered to, something bigger, something huge, something that we can account for. But like you rightly mentioned, security is very important. Security is very important, especially in the area of agriculture. The output would not be, we would have a situation where we're talking about insufficiency in the area of food because these value chains have been distorted some way or another, one form or another, because of security. High cost of fuel. Inflation also affects agriculture. Let's not talk about logistics. Let's not talk about storage. Let's not talk about, because how do farmers store their, are we talking about electricity? How do they store their farm produce when there's no security? Because anything can happen. Some of these warehouses, some of these storage facilities could be boggled.
Right.
And these things could be, taken away. And then herders that bring their cattle to the farms to eat up the hard work and labors that farmers have put in that farm is another thing. How do I don't think we've gotten to that point where we can say that we have successfully contained farmers and herders clashes. We've not gotten to that point yet. And so that's really very important for agriculture to, blossom, for us to begin. We need to consider security of lives, security of livestock, security of even the farm produce and the farms itself and the communities where these farmers live as well, I beg your pardon. Because we've heard time and time again farmers running away from their community. So how do we expect these people to put in the work and we'll get desired output? So that's aside. Let's talk about electricity tariff. We know how it is especially if you produce consumables, those perishables, tomatoes and all of that. Sometimes these people count losses because of the perishables that get spoiled due to lack of facility
to preserve this.
So let's talk about how well, because while we're talking about security, we're talking about preservation and electricity, we're talking about logistics. Fuel is on the rise now. What measures have we put in place to ensure that goods from the farm are conveniently transported? And sometimes this transportation takes longer than expected because of bad roads. And so while we're transporting these things, these perishables could get spoiled on the way. So we're talking about storage facilities where we can have a cold room, some sort of cold room in a vehicle, a mobile cold room, so that while we're transporting these perishables, they are preserved and they don't get spoiled. But do we have any system like that for our farmers and for us to have successful agricultural value chain? And then we're talking about logistics, we're talking about the fuel, cost of transporting these things. That's why we have perishables, really expensive. Today we're talking about tomatoes and you're seeing a basket of tomatoes for such exorbitant price, really very expensive, and people are actually, so these are the sacrifices Nigerians are making. So we're talking about security, logistics, fuel, preservation, storage, and all of those things that we consider very essential, very necessary. And we are hearing about disbursement, but we've had the opportunity and privilege to talk to grassroots farmers.
Right.
Not political farmers, not farmers that are politicians. Or
not imposters.
Yes, not imposters, not farmers that are farmers in their offices.
Right.
We're talking about practical farmers. We've had the opportunity to speak to them time and time again, and they tell us that, quite frankly, that there's a whole lot going on, especially when it comes to funds that are being disbursed for farmers, fertilizers, and all of these things. But sometimes it doesn't get to Those people who are the grassroots farmers. But is that even what that's one of the reasons why we are where we are today, because these things are not evenly distributed. They're not evenly distributed. We have one politician who is a farmer somewhere, getting all of these things. So we need to see to the system where the middlemen, the people who are the middlemen are transparent, so that we can see a free flow of these resources down to the people who actually need it, so that we can have food sufficiency here in Nigeria. But we can never have this conversation enough when it comes to agriculture.
Exactly. We can't. We've seen even the federal government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu try to reach out to states, subnationals as they're called, to say, look, let's collaborate, all right? This is some funding. You get to bring your counterpart funding in the area of agriculture. We've seen all of that. Like you said, transparency in the process is a problem. As we speak on this program this morning, the Central Bank of Nigeria is still making frantic efforts to be able to get back, or if you like, recover monies that were given to different organizations, different entities in the name of Anchor Borers program, which is supposed to essentially focus on rice farming, particularly in up north. We've not seen, that hasn't seen the light of day. We can't even put a finger on how much of impact that made, if any. We can't. Just less than 2 weeks ago, a particular commercial bank had gone to courts, pulling about, executives of 17 other commercial banks to say, look, we're dragging you to courts because of several billions arising from the same Anchor Borers program. We've seen many of these initiatives. We have seen some of them that even focused on certain, if you like, thematic areas of farming. Some of them focused on yam, some on rice, some on wheat, and so on and so forth, some on maize, and all of this sorghum and stuff like that. Nobody is held accountable for these things that go wrong. Government after government comes into office, and you have humongous amounts budgeted and allocated in the name of agricultural programs. And then you're asking yourself, how do we even measure, for example, the impact of the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it's at the federal level or across the 36 states of this country, including the FCT, for instance? How do we measure? Is it just by the billboards we see? Is it by all of the the brilliant adverts that we see on television, that we hear of on radio? How do we measure? As of today, for example, are we able to put food on the table of Nigerians by way of what we farm? We're not able to do that. Shehu Sani, the former senator from Kaduna State, was talking yesterday, and he said that we have done better with regards to insecurity under President Bola Tinubu than we did during the 8 years of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Again, that is subject to maybe some sort of town hall meeting or maybe some symposium. Yes, because
absolutely.
Yes, whether you like it or
where
not.
And how did you?
Exactly. Yes. What are the KPIs? What are the indices you use? What data are you extrapolating to come to that conclusion? Is very important. But again, we don't want to delve into all of those rigorous details. But rather, let's focus on how we can win the war against insecurity. Because there's nothing, even if government woke up tomorrow morning and said, we're putting $1 trillion, even though we know we are actually working towards a $1 trillion economy overall, we're putting $1 trillion in agriculture. We want to see progress in the next 5 years. And there's insecurity. That's what they call fundamental. You have not dealt with it. How do we also deal with that and ensure we make progress? How do we ensure that the graduates that we churn out of our institutions every year, particularly universities and polytechnics, come into the agri space across different spectrum? It's important. It's not just enough for them to. How do we explain to people that the bulk of the graduates we produce, so to speak, in agriculture across tertiary institutions in this country end up in other sectors that are not even remotely related to agriculture? Oil and gas, finance, media, and of course most of them end up doing businesses that are not related in any way to agriculture. How do we make agriculture very, very attractive in such a way that if someone were to pick, if a young person, a fresh graduate were to pick, amongst agriculture, banking, tech, the telecoms, media, and what have you, they would pick agriculture without thinking twice. It has to come to that point.
Yes, we have to get to that point where we make agriculture look really attractive, really, and aside from being attractive, we should have all resources in place to ensure that those who venture into agriculture do it in a way that is lucrative. It can be lucrative because agriculture has a whole lot of prospects, but because of where we are, the system that we find ourselves in, the lack of resources, and then insecurity, which plays a major, hindrance to the proper flow of these products and the agricultural value chain. We see that a lot of people back out because ordinarily, when you say I'm a farmer, people expect you to look wretched because of how it is here in Nigeria. So I believe that if we can put in effort, a lot of work needs to be done as regards agriculture, particularly security. Time and time again, we've had farmers, like I say, leave their communities. So of what benefits? How obviously, if you live where you farm, you leave your community where you have a large piece of land because of the issue of security. It means that nothing can be done. You can't work, you can't farm, you have that vast farmland, but you can't do anything there. And it's only the living that can farm.
Right.
If you are dead, nobody can work on your farm. So everybody is camping for safety, is camping for their lives. So we need to get to that point. I don't think that we have settled the issue of farmers and herders clashes, particularly from where I'm coming from, because it happens like it's more like a pattern now. After a while, there are no stories about farmers and herders clashes, and before you know it again, people are running from their communities, and you're driving through an entire village and you're not seeing anybody, abandoned houses and places, make it make sense, abandoned farmlands because of this issue. So security is pivotal if we're talking about making agriculture blossom and lucrative, even for the young. So we need to start, but I like that there are a lot of initiatives going on, but security, we need to talk security and that's where we need to put a lot of investment in, strategies in, let us have meetings with stakeholders, village heads, village chiefs, governors in all of the states, like we see do, but what's the outcome again? What's the outcome? But we really do hope that they'll put more focus on security. And on that note, this is where we will take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll bring the Global AM News for you. Do stay with us. The program continues.
With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on Global Television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okere tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Point. This is business.
Are you ready to be entertained like never before? Get ready to dive into the latest and greatest entertainment news in lifestyle, music, movies, birthday celebration, and so much more, all on Entertainment Circle on Global Television. From the hottest red carpet event to exclusive interviews with your favorite stars, we've got you covered. Stay up to date with the latest trends and news from the entertainment world, all in one place. Tune in every Saturday by 1 p.m. with Chung and Amel Joseph on Global Television.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first. Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Juma and Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Global AM News on Global Television. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. At least 6 persons have been killed and many others injured in a series of bomb attacks in Tashan Maraba Goza town in Borno State. Confirming the incident, the Director General of the State Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Bakindo Saidu, said 18 persons died while 19 others were seriously injured in the incident. In a statement by Tinubu's spokesman, Ajurin Gelale, the president described the attacks as desperate acts of terror and a clear manifestation of the pressure mounted against terrorists and the success achieved in degrading their capacity to launch offensives. Vice President Kashim Shettima has reiterated the federal government's commitment to the advancement, security and welfare of the citizens. Shettima gave the assurance when he led the federal government delegation to offer condolences to the Minister of State for Police Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, in Kefi, Nasarawa State capital. African Union has lauded the Nigerian homegrown school feeding initiative, noting that no fewer than 65.4 million children in 51 countries now benefit from various school feeding programs in Africa. Project Management for Nutrition and Food Safety, African Union Development Agency, New Partnership for African Development, Kefiwe Mwalosi, disclosed this at the School Feeding Stakeholders Strategic Meeting. 27 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory have failed to access the 36.1 billion naira education fund provided by the Universal Basic Education Commission in 2023. The 36.1 billion naira figure is contained in a document prepared by Commission in March 2024, which show how state-by-state matching grants were not assessed. The document, which was signed by UBEC's Director of Finance and Accounts, Adamu Misau, indicated that Jigawa, Sokoto and Zamfara states in the northwest, Borno and Taraba states in the northeast, Nasarawa states in north central, Ondo states in the southwest, Enugu states in the southeast, and Delta states in the south-south have fully accessed their funds. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja has assured that the Nigerian Army will stay committed to winning the war against insecurity, assuring that the Army will ensure peace and provide security across the nation. He stated that in spite of various threats of insecurity, the Army is adaptive to every situation. The lawmaker representing Ukwano Umuahia North, Umuahia South Federal Constituency, Abia State, Obi Agwocha, has sought the intervention of former President Muhammadu Buhari in securing the release of the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. The lawmaker visited the former president in his Daura country home as part of efforts to commence a dialogue to open up a political solution to the continued detention of Kanu. Precision airstrikes undertaken by the Nigerian Air Force has destroyed illegal refining sites in Rivers State and killed several terrorists riding on motorcycles in Niger State. Director of Public Relations and Information of the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Edward Gapquet, said the oil thieves in the Niger Delta region have continued to find new ways of concealing their overhead tanks used in storing crude oil products from busted pipelines, just as they have continued to use fast-speed boats to convey their stolen goods. The Defense Police Officers' Wives Association, DEPOA, has pledged to support all relevant security agencies to curb drug abuse and sex exploitation of teenagers in the country. President of the association, Ogogo Musa, made this known at an event to commemorate the first-year anniversary as the 15th president of DEPOA in Abuja. Kike Lomo Okere has details.
Sexual exploitation is a serious violation of human rights affecting millions of people worldwide, particularly women and children, which is devastating, causing physical and emotional harm, stigma, shame, and even death. President, Defense Police Officers' Rights Association, Ogogo Musa says, celebrating the 1 year in the office with the Barrack children and youth is aimed to raise awareness of the danger of illicit drugs as well as sex exploitation, as many cases are underreported.
We saw the need that this should be done because we've been hearing reports here and there, and to mark my money before we go for that, as you heard earlier, we have plans in place to reach out to different schools. They wanted to start with this just to enlighten people more and then to see to it that some of these things are really reduced.
Stakeholders at the event says there is need to address the menace of drug abuse and sex exploitation through education, policy and legal reforms.
About drug abuse, for them to understand that there are dangers in using drugs and it's quite detrimental to their health. We also went ahead to talk to them about how to prevent drug addiction or how to prevent use of drugs, the coping strategies they should use.
When it comes to issues of rape, there's a way the evidence of rape is being taken. You have to take from the sperm on the victim and also take on the accused perpetrator. So if you don't do it at the right time, there's a problem.
Sex exploitation and drug abuse can both be the result of deeper issues such as low self-esteem or history of physical or sexual abuse. The highlights to commemorate the 1 year anniversary were presentation by NYSC cultural troops and cutting of the cake. Kikelomo Ukeri, Global Television News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLA, and the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALCON, have agreed to collaborate towards curbing the menace of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in communities across the country. This was one of the agreements reached at a meeting when the national president of ALCON, Aminu Muazu Meifata, led other leaders of the body of all local government chairmen in the country on a courtesy visit to the chairman and chief executive officer of the agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Maro, retired, at its headquarters in Abuja. The National Insurance Commission, NICIM, has pledged to integrate artificial intelligence, popularly called AI, into the Nigerian insurance sector. Commissioner for Insurance, Olusegun Omoseyin, made the disclosure at the 2024 Nigeria Actuarial Society's annual industry conference in Abuja. This move, NICIM says, aligns with the federal government's national artificial intelligence strategy, which aims to position Nigeria as Africa's AI hub. Jigawa State Government has announced its preparation to offer free medical treatment, including dialysis, to kidney patients at 5 health facilities in the state. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Abdullahi Kainua, said this while briefing newsmen on the resolution of the State Executive Council meeting. The state government has approved the award of contract for the establishment of the dialysis centers in Duse and Rigim General Hospitals, while the installation of the dialysis machine and other equipment is at an advanced stage in Hadejia, Kazare and Gumel General Hospitals. The Turkish Embassy in Nigeria has confirmed that there is no visa ban on Nigerian passport holders, as against reports that have raised concern. Reports had earlier surfaced suggesting that Ethiopia, Turkey and the United Arab Emirates had revoked certain privileges for Nigerian passport holders, such as visas on arrival, e-visa and outright passport issues. Personal Secretary to the Turkish Ambassador to Nigeria, Wumi Evelyn, told journalists that there is no visa ban on Nigerian passport holders. Minister of Works David Umahi gave the 2 construction I beg your pardon, the Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gaidam, says he is intervening in the ongoing face-off between the Police Service Commission and the Nigerian Police Force. After concluding the recruitment exercise, the Commission on June 4th released the list of 10,000 successful applicants for constable and specialist cadre roles in the Nigerian Police Force. 11 days later, the police rejected the list over the allegation that the recruitment exercise was marred by corruption and irregularities. Nigerians have demanded greater transparency and accountability from government regarding its spending priorities. This is in response to the alleged plan of the Senate to approve purchase jets for President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima. Global Television has details.
The plan to acquire a presidential private jet for President Tinubu has elicited widespread public debate, with the majority of Nigerians expressing disapproval due to the prevailing economic hardships.
They are sort of representing themselves and not the masses again, as they were elected, and they were primarily elected to represent the masses. They are not. They are representing themselves.
Me, as I stand like this, as a father, you have a father that says, okay, father, come take care of this country, come take care of those people, and they work with those people. And the father, now, if your children they feel hungry, you know how you feel someone. So that people when they around all this misery, if they think no work, find way.
Wow, if the president want to get a presidential jet, no problem, it's good. It's our president. You understand? We cannot say you should not buy a presidential jet. You understand? We won't want to buy something that is more presidential jet that you want. But if the president has a jet and it's available, which is more than one or two, and you want to buy a new one, it's not a big thing. We can sell those others one. We will sell those other one. You understand? We can buy the money and buy the new current one for him. You understand? So that we will reduce the cost of the new one.
They can't tell me the past president jet has been abandoned just because it's on his own tenure now. He had to get a new jet. So it doesn't work like that. We have so lot of issues in this country already that we are facing. That they should just pity the nation and the hustlers. I don't cast the politicians as hustlers. They are not hustling. We the mere ground floors we are the one hustling for them.
Nigerians have called on the government to justify the necessity of the jet purchase and to demonstrate how it will be beneficial to the country. Queen Agaba reporting for Global Television.
You're watching the Global AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the news returns, France votes in high-stakes parliamentary elections. This and other stories coming right after this break. Do stay with us.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumaine Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and they repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
Time check.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. On the foreign scene, people in France have today gone to the polls in the first round of high-stakes snap parliamentary elections. This could alter the country's trajectory and see the far-right party of Marine Le Pen take power in historic first. President Emmanuel Macron stunned the nation by calling snap polls after the far-right National Rally Party's strong showing in European Parliament elections this month. With Russia's war against Ukraine in its third year and energy and food prices much higher, support for the anti-immigration and Eurosceptic party has surged despite Macron's pledges to prevent its ascent. The two-round vote could put the far right in power in France for the first time since the Nazi occupation in World War II. Polling stations opened across mainland France at 8 a.m. local and closed at midday, immediately followed by projections that usually predict the result with a degree of accuracy. Meanwhile, one person has been killed and 5 others wounded in northeastern France when several masked gunmen opened fire at a wedding ceremony. Sources suggested that the attack in the northeastern city of Thionville was linked to a settling of scores between drug traffickers. The shooting, according to reports, occurred at a reception hall overnight Saturday to Sunday, with around 100 people in attendance. 2 people were seriously injured and one of them was in a critical condition. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country is ending the intense phase of the war on Gaza. However, fighting continues to rage as Israeli troops, tanks advance into Shujaiya in the north of Rafah in the south. Prime Minister Netanyahu said his country is ending the action signals a shift to focus to the simmering conflict on the country's northern border with Lebanon. In business, Nigeria's reserves have continued an upward trajectory, hitting $34.14 billion on Friday, having appreciated by 4.6% from $32.74 billion on June 3, 2024. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria has shown the country's reserves are boosted by the latest rounds of loans the federal government got from the World Bank in May. The Bureau of Public Enterprises disclosed that the federal government had secured a $500 million World Bank loan to bolster the country's electricity distribution sector. In sports, Abia Warriors coach Bethel Orji says his team's 0-2 loss to El Kanemi Warriors of Maiduguri in Saturday's finals of the President Federation Cup was due to fatigue. Orji said this in an interview on the sidelines of the defeat in the finals of the oldest cup competition in Nigeria played at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos. Canada held 2015 and 2016 Copa America champions Chile to a 0-0 draw in Orlando, which was enough to see the Canadians into the last 8. Chile needed a victory to leapfrog the Canadians into the knockout round, but were left with a mountain to climb early in the game when Gabriel Suazo was dismissed for a second yellow card after only 27 minutes. That's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching and see you again.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jermaine Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momadou. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Hello, children. Gather around, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria, come join Anthony Momadou on television.
Many thanks for staying with us. Well, it's now time for us to bring the papers for you, and we'll be starting with our very first paper, which is the Blueprint. On the front page of the Blueprint, we have big story there. Purveyors of Gwoza bomb attack will pay heavy price, Tinubu assures. We already paid this heavy price. Northern governors rally support. Ndume harps on God's grace. And then Atiku condemns attack, urges drastic actions. Presidency lauds Nimase Blue Economy Ministry on service delivery. Ododo Audu mourn as ex-CDS Admiral Ogohi dies at 75. Nigeria's cryptocurrency markets worth over $400 million. And then we have it on sports. Federal government laws Amusan's clearance by CAS. Kenya protests. No blood on my hand, Ruto insists. Lastly, on the front page of the Blueprint, we have Serap to CBN accounts for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes and other funds. And Nigeria requires 8 to 10% GDP growth for sustainability, according to Adebanjo. Those are the stories that we have on the front page of the Blueprint. The Daily Sun would be our next point of call.
Yes, we're going to go to that, Queen. But you see, there are these headlines, but there's this particular one that is very interesting, just close to the one that says Nigeria requires 8 to 10% GDP growth for sustainability. It says FCT, NDLEA raids Sun City Estates, drug party, arrest 60. Incidentally, that's in the very heart of the FCT, all right, around Gadowa, Kara area. All right, I mean that's a Galadimawa, I should say. All right, that's a very popular estate around that axis towards Galadimawa, just out the Kara axis. It's interesting how that's. I can't find the word readily available, but maybe I should say the innovation that we're seeing with drugs. People are not having drug party. People are not having cake that are laced with drugs. Things like snacks, chain, sausages,
biscuits,
everything now can have drugs added to them, that sort of thing. But I think some credible intel must have led to these sort of busts, where we are told that 60 persons were arrested by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. It's quite a disturbing development. All right, but like Queen said, let's take it to the Sun. That's the Daily Sun, real quick now. I will begin with the story that is adjacent the nameplate of the Sun newspaper this morning. Why Southeast governors must work together. That's Peter Obi. If you look at it from the standpoint of regional factors, you expect all 5 governors of the Southeast to work together. But again, there's the partisan and political polarization. You go to a place like Ebonyi, the governor is an APC man, for instance. You come to Abia, the governor is a Labour Party man. You come to Enugu, you have a PDP governor. And then you move to Imo, you have an APC governor. That's the second APC governor in the Southeast. Then you come to Anambra, you have an ABGA governor. And then you are asking yourself, given what we know about Nigeria, our politics and our politicians, and the way our partisan politics, internal politics work, you're wondering, at what point and on what level will these governors be able to form a common united front, so they can work together? Well, maybe Peter Obi knows something we are not aware of. But we need to also look at the Star story on the front page of the Daily Sun this morning. It says, wedding suicide attacks, Borno death toll rises to 18. Some papers are saying 22 already, others say 23, 42 badly injured. Now, there are 3 3 riders accompanying this headline this morning. 30 suicide bombers deployed. Official Povios will pay heavy price, that according to the president. And northern governors, UN chief condemn attacks. I thought we had moved past condemning it and going ahead to do something, something actionable. But we understand the president had not only condemned, but he also did make a promise that, or if you like, a pledge, that whoever is behind it or those who have perpetrated these dastardly, shameful, shameless, and evil acts will pay heavy price for it. Okay. But let's take it to stories on the left corner of the front page of today's issue of the Daily Sun. Rotational presidency will promote equity, justice, or Hambua. Is that where we're heading? Are we looking at that possibility with all of the amendments we're bringing into the 1999 Constitution, which is already amended? We'll find out. NDLEA raids Abuja drug party, arrest 60. The rider says intercept 7.3 billion naira codeine consignments. These consignments are always in billions. Borrowing space narrows as Nigeria's debt to GDP swells to 51. That's a tight place to be in economically. Swear in elected member or be removed from office. Abia PDP chairman aspirant tells speaker. Budget man others tackle FG for running 4 budgets concurrently. Again, I was wondering when I heard the Senate president talk about that, how you can run budgets like that. I mean, we still have the 2023 appropriation running. We have the 2024 running side by side, and legislators at the federal level are telling us that it's possible that you can do both. But they are normally, it's headache inducing. Cholera, Lagos residents lament access to potable water. That's a challenge. How do you talk about cholera and in between you're having the conversation around access or lack of it to potable water, particularly in a place like Lagos. I was watching a documentary just yesterday by chance, and a particular socioeconomic analyst was talking about how that every other year the number of persons added to the population of Lagos is virtually the entire population of Boston in Massachusetts, which is a state in the U.S. We're looking at something around the neighborhood of 650 to 675,000 human beings. So when you have that sort of density in a state like Lagos, as we know it, and then you're still talking about how that you don't have potable water, then it means we have more work to do with not just fighting and winning the war against cholera, but even going forward, dealing with other outbreaks that may not be here just yet.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see. That one has a rider. It says Katsina records 118 suspected cases. Those cases just continue to rise. The last headline from the Daily Sun is on the very front page of it. It's at the foot. It says, East-West Road FG threatens to sack foreign contractors. What is the reason that action might be taken? Well, you can find details for yourself when you look at it on page 27 of today's edition of the Daily Sun newspaper. Queen will bring us Daily Trust next.
On the front page of our next paper, which happens to be Daily Trust newspaper, big story there says, despite amendment, clamp down on journalists persist. This is Cybercrime Act. Despite amendment, clamp down on journalists persist. Rider says 25 reporters faced prosecution since 2015. Nigeria, one of West Africa's most dangerous places to practice. This is sad. Police, federal government, presidency, mum. NESG backs CBN's stoppage of price verification system on foreign exchange. Governor Rada queries Katsina Emir. I lost 5 family members in Gwoza attacks. A relative is saying here, this must be very traumatic and a very painful experience that I do not wish anybody to experience, having to lose 5 family members.
Under such circumstances.
And in most cases, we can have an entire immediate family
wiped out.
Yes, taken out by this suicide attack. It's really sad. So this is why we keep talking about the issue of security here and how important and how pivotal it is to the growth and development of Nigeria. Outside of that, no other discussion makes sense if the issue of security is still left unattended. Those are the stories we have on the front page of Daily Trust. Our next point of call will be the Leadership newspaper.
Next to the Leadership for you, real quick. We begin with headlines above the name mast for you this morning. One with a picture of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso. It says, SERAP to CBN account for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes. All right. A sad one is just adjacent. It has a picture of the late Nick Imudia, one-time Chief Executive Officer of Konga. It says, Konga's ex-CEO death, not seaside family. Wow, that's an angle to it. Oh, wow. Well, you can find details on page 6. Okay. What else? It says stakeholders excited over executive order on local drug production. You know, the president has said that, signed an executive order stated very clearly that imports that are specific to pharmaceuticals should not have duty paid on them. All right, now we're hearing that stakeholders are excited about these developments. Okay, but we hope it also rubs off, or as it were, reflects in the price of drugs going forward. So if I used to buy a particular drug for, say, 4,000 naira, I shouldn't be buying at that rate anymore. I don't know what the price will be now, but we should see a measurable, significant drop. Yes, because that's the whole idea. Otherwise, the purpose is defeated, then it means, again, there's a cabal within the big pharma, as is always the case with other sectors. All right. Minimum wage, lawyers back NLC say FEC can't negotiate for workers. All right. Borno bomb attacks. Nigeria won't slide into era of fear, Tinubu vows. 4 riders with that headline says terrorists will pay heavy price. Let's now return to theater of terrorism. Article 1. Northern governors, U.S. government condemn attacks. Death toll rises to 21 as security operatives arrest 2 female bombers. Quite a shocking development. But then we have some other headlines that may not be so shocking to you on the right side of the Leadership newspaper, front cover. Says CBN customs plan fixed import duty exchange rates. We hope that works. NDLEA intercepts codeine worth 7.3 billion naira. Unibank cries out over 280 million naira monthly electricity bill. 280 million naira monthly electricity bill. That is interesting. You see, I think for a place like Unibank, people will say, well, it's an institution. Heavy equipment, a lot to be done. But you may say, yes, but you're still wondering, how does it come to 280 million? Well, when you speak with the power distributors across board, from what I know firsthand, they'll tell you, tariff has moved from around 60, 61 naira to over 220 naira. You do the maths and blah, blah, blah. In my house, for example, power got disconnected in June. For that same month of June, I got 300 and something thousand as my bill for that month. Yes, over 300,000. So yes, this is the house where I live with just my family, so I got over 300,000. And they are telling me that I used 1,500 kilowatts per hour of energy for that month.
When you were disconnected?
Yeah, exactly. So let's even assume I used it at all. How did I get to 1,500 kilowatts per hour of energy consumption? Now, to think that I was disconnected for that period. So you're wondering on what basis is the billing done? Yes. Is it just a random thing, or is it like there's a template? So all you just do is you remove the house address and the name of the customer or the consumer. Is that what you do? So I think we need to come to a point where, with or without increase in tariff, it doesn't become a ridiculous process of billing for us. We need to take a second look at that. Otherwise, we're just going to create more chaos than we're trying to solve problems. All right. We have one more headline for you on the front page of the Leadership this morning before we move on to something else. It says, family debunks Olu Jacobs' death rumor. That rumor had been in
current.
Yes, exactly. For a while, it has been in the rumor mill, as they call it, for a while. But the family has come out to officially state that the man is hale and hearty, is alive. Even the wife of Sonny Rabo, a veteran broadcaster in this country, his wife has also come out, the publisher of Genevieve magazine, to say the man is alive, nothing has happened to him. And then even Kate Henshaw has spoken against it as well, to say, look, people should double check their stories before they go out to make a lot of noise unnecessarily and things like that. So we need to be careful, especially for those of us who are in the media space. You know, the fact that you have social media presence, you have a handle on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, it's not a license to be irresponsible with the things that we put out there. I think that's very important note to make. But we have the New Telegraph as well for you this morning.
On the front page of the New Telegraph, big story: cholera spreads to Kirikiri Correctional Center, afflicts 25 inmates. Katsina records 118 suspected cases. LASG links outbreaks to unregulated beverages, contaminated water, as experts blames it on poor funding, maintenance culture. CBN credits to government. Private sector rises by 10% to 102.69 trillion naira. Price verification portal suspension will enhance economic efficiency. We don't know who this statement is accredited to, but you'll find that story on page 8 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Why National Assembly must do more to assuage people's sufferings by lawyers. And then we have highest French poll turnout in 40 years as far as historic win. Communities erecting new structures on federal government. It's saying here, ex-CDS Ogohi dies at 75 years. And then we have stories on 71,000 Nigerians secure Canadian citizenships. SERAP wants CBN to account for missing 100 billion naira dirty notes and others. CP orders clamp down on vehicle without number plates in Abuja. Federal government approves 2 trillion naira housing scheme for Nigerians. On insecurity, federal government's tame posture emboldening terrorists in Northeast, according to Atiku. The writer there, you find that story on page 2, 5, 7, and 28 of the New Telegraph to read more about that. And from NGF to regional and zonal governments forums on ending rise of political power blocks. Lastly, using smartphones to calm kids' tantrum, not effective. A study there has shown. These are the stories we have on the front page of the New Telegraph.
You know, I like this this study that says using smartphones to calm kids' tantrums, not effective. You know, parents are very instinctive about it. So a child is crying, especially when you are outdoor, and then you need to focus on some certain things that are very important to you. And the next thing you do is you whip out your phone, hand it over to the kid, and then you're doing, I don't like saying kids, your child, and then you pop a cartoon for them to look at and things like that. You know, but I think parents should be a bit more creative with these things, even though we know the pressure can be very nasty sometimes. All right, but let's take you to the Nigerian Tribune real quick, everyone. Nigerian Tribune has a couple of headlines here, but we'll begin with the ones just above the name mast for you. One with a picture of the Minister of Finance, who doubles as coordinating Minister of the Economy. It says debt to GDP ratio crosses 50%. As Nigeria's debt servicing set to surpass revenue. It's not a good place to be, apparently. Song has always appointed Ogbomosho chief imam since 1818. So there's a historical background to it. That's according to League of Imams. All right, it says Song has always appointed Ogbomosho chief imam since 1818. That's for over a century now. Okay, Star Story reads, Borno Atiku Obi flay bomb attacks. U.S. offers support, Tinubu assures citizens, all right? That's talking about the Goza attacks from the weekend. It says, with the riders now, terrorists won't go unpunished. Tinubu, FG's failure to hold frontline responsible for attacks. FG's failure to hold frontline responsible for attacks. That's Atiku. Nigerians must be unrelenting in demanding security. We will collaborate with FG to defeat terrorism, U.S. government. We've seen this promise since 2015, maybe even earlier than that, but nothing much has changed. U.S. Mayor, Goza attack, last kick of a dying horse. We hope that's what it is. NDLEA raids Abuja drug party, arrests 60. Edo APC, PDP trade words over government projects. Elections are around the corner. They have just about 3 months, less than 3 months, less than 3 months to the election, just 2 months and a few weeks. So we understand this kind of heated back and forth to naturally ensue. LG autonomy, FG urged dragging states to court or Kukbe. So the question is, what should the government, the federal government in this case, have done regarding this matter? Well, Doyin Kukbe has the answers for you on page 23 of today's issue of the Nigerian Tribune. Right, electricity tariff hikes. Most universities will become bankrupt. Uniben VC. Of course, we just talked about the 280 million monthly bill that they have to grapple with going forward. Okay, there's a story close to the foot of the front page of today's Nigerian Tribune. It says how government policies, infrastructure deficits threaten Nigeria's $6.5 billion beer market. The writer says why capital market may not be the way out. That's according to experts. Quite a number of stories from the Nigerian Tribune, but then that's what we're leaving it. We're moving to the Daily Times next.
On the front page of the Daily Times, big story, Borno bomb attacks, purveyors of wanton violence will pay heavy price, Tinubu assures. That story is on page 4, says federal government would allow Nigeria to slither into era of fear, tears, sorrow, and blood.
That's on the Daily Times.
On the Daily Times.
Right.
Daily Times newspaper. Mm-hmm. NSGF condemns Goza suicide attack. Tinubu responsible for resurgence of terrorism in Northeast, says Atiku. We have a picture there of people rushing victims of the bomb attack to hospitals and care centers. There'll be peace across Nigeria in foreseeable future, according to the Chief of Army Staff, says 6 Nigerians continued support for the Army to enable its address insecurity. Nigerian Air Force aircraft intercepts fleeing oil thieves in speedboat, destroys refining sites. That's on page 2. Local government autonomy, federal government erred in dragging states to court, according to Okukpe. And then CDS mounts Admiral Ogohi, says he was patriotic all through. That's the Chief of Defense Staff speaking about the late Admiral Ogohi, who died at 75. We have NIMED launches e-learning platform for greater collaboration and global opportunities. Just above the nameplates, I think I skipped that headline, we have Coastal Highway. Federal government wants erecting new structures for compensation. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Times. The Guardian will be our next point of call.
Let's bring you to the Guardian real quick, everyone. On the front page of the Guardian this morning, quite graphical as always. That's the big story, incidentally. Says currency commoditization, currency commoditization. All right, MT ATMs dot Metropolis as banks trade cash with POS operators. Again, this is some very worrying scheme that's ongoing. Some report says that most of these ATM points, these POS points or terminals are owned by bankers, some of them senior bankers. So they have them strategically dispersed across the city or across cities and things like that. It's interesting how somebody wants to collect 100,000 from a bank, or sometimes as small as 50,000. They say we don't have cash. We can only give you 20, which is even less than half of what you intend to withdraw. But you can give 500,000 or even more to an ATM operator by the roadside. I mean, a POS operator by the roadside. I think that should be very disturbing because, again, this is a redefinition of of the finance space as we know it. Because it's embarrassing that you go to a bank, your own bank. You're not begging for a loan or for any sort of facility or overdraft. You're asking to withdraw from your own money that you have deposited with the bank, and they say they don't have enough cash to give to you, so can give you something less than half of it. You seem to understand, because if they don't have cash, they don't have cash. But how does the same bank, in most cases the same exact branch, have money to give to POS operators? It's interesting and crazy, we must say. But it says MT ATMs dot Metropolis as banks trade cash with POS operators. And you find some sort of graphical presentation on the page, front page of The Guardian this morning, just conspicuously presented there for you. All right, let's look at the side of it. The right side of the front page of The Guardian it says, refineries to begin operations before January, Senate assures. I thought we got that same assurance last year, and then we moved it from December to January. Now we're talking January of 2025 again. Fingers crossed, but you can find those details for yourself on news page 3 of The Guardian, today's issue. Mayhem looms in North over hardship, Lukman warns. That's a former senior member of, in fact, was a member of the NWC of the All Progressives Congress, the ruling APC, but he resigned just a few weeks ago. That was his membership of the party. All right, it says, Mayhem looms in North over hardship, Lukman warns. How Buhari government failed to recover $69 billion looted funds, Obono Oblak alleges. Endless communal conflicts worsen food insecurity, hunger in Cross River. That story has details on page 4 of The Guardian today. Goza seaside attacks, Tinubu mourns, vows justice as death toll rises to 23. And then the foot of it says, NDLEA nabs 60 at Abuja drug party, destroys 18,632 kilograms of cannabis in Edo forest. That's quite interesting. You're going to catch our conversation in the course of the week on our new program, Scale of Justice, where we're talking about death penalty for drug offenders and all of the elements around it. Okay, but that'll be later in the week. In the meantime, we'll turn to the Punch newspaper for you, and Queen has those headlines for us.
On the front page of the Punch newspaper, big story, import duty. Bank plane grounded as federal government clamps down on private jets. Aircraft stopped from flying over alleged 1.9 billion naira unpaid import duties. Now let's move over to the above the nameplates, just above the nameplate. Federal government withdraws 5 oil blocks from 2024 bid round. Senate resumes probe as AGF submits 30 trillion naira Kin documents. Loan documents, I beg your pardon. And then we also have on the front page of The Punch, Japa outrage as UK-based driver remains on federal government payroll. You know, these are the things that we keep highlighting here, like we mentioned the last week, where we've seen people leave their jobs here. They're as civil servants, federal jobs, state-owned jobs, and relocate entirely to the UK, but they're still getting paid from our resources here, while they're enriching other climes. And so it's a call for us to check the systems. How is it possible that somebody resigns fully from work here, travels outside of the country, and is still getting paid monthly? This, and I'm sure this is not the only person. There are several others like this, several other persons.
Right.
And there are thousands, if not more than, who are also receiving payments like this outside of the country, but they're still getting paid for jobs that they do not do.
Yeah.
And so how do these resources circulate evenly? This is where we see that the federal government is not able to pay the minimum wage of that the NLC
those who are actively working.
Those who are actively working are not being paid, cannot be paid that, because there's no productivity coming out from some of these services, because those who are supposed to be productive, ensuring that there's their outputs, they're not in the country, but they're getting paid from our resources, and so the resources cannot be evenly shared. So the systems need to be put in check, where ghost workers are completely eliminated. Those who are diaspora workers who have resigned have to be completely taken out of the payroll. There are a lot of loopholes in the system, so it needs to be checked, and then we can sit down again and still negotiate minimum wage for an average Nigerian workers. But for an average Nigerian worker, I beg your pardon, but for now I don't think we're ready, because the loopholes are just enormous.
We have heard cases, several instances of people minding their business at home. Some of them, out of job, maybe have never even had a job, maybe fresh graduates. We've seen people who have jobs. They get called up. They say, we're going to integrate you into so-and-so agency or so-and-so ministry. You'll be getting so-and-so amount of money by way of salary, standard as it's obtainable within the civil service system on a monthly basis. However, for the purpose of this conversation, let's say the money is going to be 1,000 naira. However, when you're paid that 1,000 naira at the end of every month, you're supposed to take 300 naira and send 700 to so-and-so account. So it's a cycle. There's a syndicates, or maybe we should say you have syndicates in charge of all of this. You have it at state level, you have it at the federal level. So the person is just at home and they keep getting money. They keep getting money, sometimes for years. So one day one government comes in, especially in the cases of states, and the government says, enough is enough. We're going to weed out all the ghost workers and blah, 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 blah. The next government comes again, weeds out ghost workers. The next government comes again. So are we saying for every, new governments, ghost workers are talked in, or one government never really flushes out all the ghost workers, so there's always a remnant for the next government to flush out?
When are we going to completely flush out ghost workers?
And say, as of today, we have a zero ghost workers situation.
Since it's an agenda, this government comes in, we're flushing out ghost workers, we're working to ensure that ghost workers are eliminated from payrolls and all of that. But it's a cycle, it's a pattern. One government comes, another government comes, come and go, while we're still having the issues of ghost workers prevalent in the system. And then now we're hearing of people who have jackpot and still receiving salaries. So I think we need to check the system. We need to check the loopholes and ensure that there are no loopholes, so that we can have productivity and resources can be evenly distributed.
Which also means that we must also deal with issues around job racketeering. That's a big factor. We must deal with that. Otherwise, we'll be here speaking English the whole day and nothing really changes.
It's part of the system. So these are the things, these are the issues that...
You remember the Oga at the top controversy? It was job racketeering that led to that, because the gentleman who is now retired from service was being asked at that time, what is the website of the NSCDC, that's the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps? That question arose from the fact that we had seen people who said they got jobs with the NSCDC, and at the end of the day, the security agency told them, we are not even hiring. We're not recruiting at this point. So how did you get a job? So you have insiders who do that. Just up north this week there was a case of an immigration officer who got sentenced to, I think, 2 years imprisonment. Why? He had been fingered in some sort of job racketeering. We're told that he had collected 800,000 from somebody by way of saying, I'm going to give you a job in the service and all of that. And the whole thing went south, and the rest is history, as they say. I think we're still with the Punch newspaper.
Yeah, we're still with the Punch. We can't have this conversation enough.
We can't exhaust it, right?
Yes, we cannot exhaust it. Big story. We've taken the big story. There's a story here on Lagos Calabar Highway. South section begins August as federal government suspends new roads. UN condemn Borno bombing. Tinubu vows to crush Boko Haram. Police guard Rivers Hospital treating explosion suspect. Suspected herders hack Ogun rice farmer to death. These are the issues that we keep talking about. Security for farmers. Security for farmers. And then we have herders here hacking a rice farmer to death. So how do we talk about greater output in terms of agriculture when we still have cases where farmers and herders clash, or where herders are killing farmers, just as we see in Ogun State, where a farmer was hacked to death by a herder.
So sad.
So sad. So if we need security for farmers, security, I cannot overemphasize the importance of security, especially in agricultural value chain. Security is paramount, is very pivotal. If not, whatever it is we're doing, we're wasting our time. It's an exercise in futility.
Right.
So while we talk about developing agriculture, while we talk about investing in agriculture and the value chains of agriculture, we need to understand that security matters. So we can channel all our energy and investment in the area of security, have meetings, and look at how we can tackle the issue of insecurity first.
Head on.
I think that's very important.
It is.
Head on before we talk about any other thing as regards agriculture. And then lastly, on the Punch, TCN repairs plunge Ondo Ekiti to 2-month blackout. So these are the stories that we have on the Punch. Our last point of call will be the Vanguard newspaper.
Right. So let's turn to the Vanguard quickly for you, everyone. Okay. Let's begin with the star story here. It says agony as FG's retirees grown under 230 billion naira pension arrears. Quite sad. The writers here say to us, no payments made for over a year. Legally binding upward review suspended for 15 whole years. Stakeholders called for boycott of government securities. Regular dialogue, pressure from labor required. That's according to PENUP. Why I want Southeast governors to work together. That's Peter Obi there talking on page 37 of the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria still using 1966-67 map for survey. That's according to surveyors. So what are the surveyors doing about this? What are state governments doing about this? Little wonder sometimes you say our map even misleading you across cities in this country. Exit of nationals, of multinationals, I should say, opportunity for local industries. That's according to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Band A, Disco's monthly revenue rises 42.29% to 142.92 billion naira. Of course, that doesn't come as a shock to us. All right. Quinn and I made mention of that a while ago. I mean, the astronomically increased billing system we now have all of a sudden. But let's take you to headlines above the name mast of the Vanguard newspaper today. Borno attacks, Tinubu vows to deal with perpetrators. Konga ex-CEO's death, North Seaside, as according to his family. All right, what's more? The last one here says identity theft brouhaha, securing Nigeria's identity with digital addressing system by Adegbuyi. Those are big stories coming your way from the Vanguard this morning. We do hope you take our time to look at these papers for yourself as quickly as you can, right? We're taking a quick break now, everyone. Just in the course of last week, my colleague Anthony Momodu was here talking with the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Abu Shawesh, where they talked about the issues around the continuous bombardment of Gaza, which of course has extended to Rafah now, and the Israeli forces don't seem to be looking at reneging anytime soon. Just a few days ago, we understand that the leader of the armed forces of Israel had also gone to Washington, hopefully to discuss what strategies his country will adopt in this war going forward. But is there end in sight? What are the implications for not just Israel and Palestine, but for the region and for global peace altogether? Anthony had a sit down with the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, and he shared very valuable insights along these lines.
right, welcome back. You're still watching Africa's Finest Breakfast Show, Global Morning. Discourse of the day where we'll be taking a very important talking point as we look at the Hamas-Israeli war as it reaches a truce amid other concerns. And we've got in the live studio our guest, esteemed guest. He's the Senior Ambassador to Nigeria. His name Abdullah Abu Sharesh, who is joining us to get a cleaner and non-biased look as regards to what's playing out in Palestine and how we are hoping this war would finally come to an end. Nice to have you in the studio.
Very good morning, and very good morning, Africa. Very good morning, Nigeria.
All right, some very interesting talking about the new world order coming to play. But first of all, let's look at, can we safely say we are approaching the peaceful resolution of this Hamas-Israeli war, even though Benjamin Netanyahu said, okay, the final onslaught on Hamas is coming to an end. Now they're moving to the Lebanon border where they want to face the Hezbollah group. For you, how is everything panning out?
Well, thank you so much, Henry, for having me today, and very good morning indeed. You repeated in your introduction 3 times Hamas-Israeli war, which I used to say that we need, as a diplomat, as a responsible people, to correct all of these narratives. It's very important to say that there is no, it's not a war again between Hamas and Israel and Hamas. It's an Israeli war. Western, if you want to take in a global level, Western or American-Israeli war against the entire Palestinian people. This war was erupted since November 2nd, 1917, when the United Kingdom issued the Balfour, the notorious Balfour Declaration. This war started also continued or started or was very explicit since 75 years ago, when the Israeli gangs or the Jewish gangs, the European Jewish gangs, foreign European Jewish gang, was ethnically cleansed the Palestinian people. And my father was born in our original village there in Berga, so that this is a war, a continuous war against the entire Palestinian people. But unfortunately, 165 days, everyone is, the Western media and the Israeli propaganda is trying to put it or portray it as Israeli Hamas war. Could anyone explain if this is an Israeli Hamas war? How come more than we are talking about 40,000 Palestinians was killed, nearly 40,000 Palestinians was killed till now. 10,000 of them, another 10,000 is still missing under the rubble. 17,000 children is orphaned, and there is a lot of other statistical or other statistical numbers that is very shocking to the international community itself. If this is a war against Hamas, how could you explain that more than 500 Palestinians in the last 8 months only in the West Bank was killed? The majority of them, or a big percentage of them, is only child. How come war against Hamas, what is happening in West Bank, which is loud and clear, the Israeli government is calling for expelling the Palestinian people from their village. They are used to, and all of you heard the Israeli ministers and the Israeli officials when assuming the office is calling for the expelling the Palestinians from Gaza and West Bank. So that it's very important to say it's a war, it's a historical war against the entire Palestinian people, which is affecting every single Palestinian, not only in the occupied Palestinian territory, but also in the diaspora. 60% of the Palestinians people is living in the diaspora, which means we did not have, those 60% did not have the right to back to Palestine. So that it's very important to clarify, because by the end of the day, wording or word have a very specific meaning. It's an Israeli war against American-Israeli war against the entire Palestinian people.
But because of the October 7th attack, That's why they had to come en masse to clear out Hamas, which is being considered as a terrorist organization. Do you think the Israelis were right? They were provoked by the October 7 attack. Because before then, we didn't see such onslaught on the Palestinians.
Two things, three things. By the very last word that you mentioned, so that I should raise three things. First, Israel would like us, the international community, the whole international community, start counting as if the galaxy itself was created in October 7. October 6 itself, 6 Palestinians, half a dozen of Palestinians was killed. Since the beginning of 2023 till October 6, 152 Palestinians was killed. One of them is Mohammed al-Tamimi, slave 2.5 years old. It's for fun, so that the galaxy was not started or was not created in October 7th. There is an October 6th, October 5th, October 4th, and so on and so forth. Second, this is the Israeli, of course, propaganda regarding October 7. The issue is, and I would like to refer you to October, to the Security Council meeting on October 24th, 2023, when Guterres himself, the Secretary General, was mentioning that this October 7 does not come from a vacuum. Then he referred it to the root cause of this of what happened in October 7, which means that if you want to analyze any political, this is not mathematical issue. This is not 1 + 1 = 2. This is a political issue, socio-economic, political, and all of this stuff. You need to analyze it, taking into consideration the incubator, the historical incubator. You cannot analyze October 7th as if this is the only day in the history. There is an incubator, there is a history behind it. If you want to ignore that 75 years of experience with the Palestinian people, if you want to ignore the notorious Balfour Declaration, if you want to ignore all the suffering that the Palestinian is faced a long time ago, since the Nakba 1948 and since the occupation 1967, this means that you, not you in person, of course, anyone trying to analyze this is completely biased. So that again, October 7th is not the starting point. There is a root cause for October 7th, and without tackling this root cause, we will not reach any future, or we will not reach any conclusion, unless we want again to become a part of the Israeli problem.
All right, today is the 26th day of June, which the United Nations have set aside as a day to recognize and appreciate those who have suffered torture in conflict situations. And reports reaching us tells us lots of Palestinian women and girl child were tortured by Israeli forces. How has this panned out? Are the Palestinians hoping to take this before the ICC? Now that it looks like the Israeli forces, Benjamin Netanyahu, they are agreeing to technically a ceasefire somewhere along the line. For Palestinian women and girl child, they have been reportedly tortured. What's the plan?
The issues, many or a lot of Palestinian women and children and people was tortured by Israel. It's not a lot. All the Palestinian people, any Palestinian was tortured with a different level of torture. When you deny my right, percent of the Palestinians did not have to back to visit their village, to back to their homeland, to back to their original homeland. This is a part of torture. So that unless you want to talk about the physical torture, which is there is a lot of UN reports is talking about the physical torture that the Palestinian is facing or endured in these days, especially the prisoners in the Israeli prisons, and there is a lot of very dark about different type of torture that the Palestinian prisoners is facing and suffering these days. Again, what I would like to say that there is tens of reports issued by the international community, mainly the different UN entities that we all should take a look to the abstract of these reports to make sure that what is happening on the ground will not be repeated for the other southern country, because again, what is happening in Palestine is indicator for the future of the South country. Anyone think or believe that he is safe and what is happening in Palestine for the Palestinian people trampling the international law is have no meaning or have no effect in his future, I can assure you that he's totally wrong. No one is safe until everyone is safe. What is coming or what is preparing or what is happening in Palestine, this is to pave the way for the new social, economic, and political order that is coming, and the Western country, in particular, again, the United States of America, and of course, what it is, agent Israel in the Middle East is trying to impose on the international, the whole entire world. What is happening in Palestine is very alarming indicators for all of the all of the southern country. You in the South country, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, need to take a very deep look of what is happening in Palestine. This is your future, unfortunately. Anyone, I know that many of your viewers right now will not believe in that, but I need you, or I advise, or I really want you to take a look what is happening against the international law, trampling the international law, throwing the UN Charter on the, so to speak, to the garbage, the televised genocide, with all of what is happening against the Palestinian people, or the tragedy that the Palestinians are suffering these days, and the international community is turning with his blind eyes. This means that...
Would you say the whole of the international community is turning blind eye when we have some countries that have already come out to say they would recognize the Palestinian state? We've had the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres always seeming to speak on the behalf of the Palestinian people. How would you assess the judgment and the support the Palestinian people have been getting in recent weeks and months?
It's not only in recent weeks. For example, Nigeria is supporting the Palestinian people. I spent 8 years in the United Nations, and Nigeria is very strong supporter to the Palestinian. The majority of African countries very strong supporter when it came to the theoretical issue. But again, there is many other tools that still in the international community hands to, if they use it, this will put an end to the Palestinian. So that what I would like to say that yes, we are receiving a lot of support, and you have all watched in the last 2-3 weeks, many countries has recognized the state of Palestine, Spain and other European countries, Armenia just last week. So that we still and we will continue to receive a lot of theoretical support and political support, but this is it is necessary, as we used to say in economic, but not sufficient. I mean, it is necessary to say that we, the international community, still maintain and would like to maintain the international or the current international political order, the current international economic order, and the international law. But this is again not sufficient. Other tools that still in the hands of the international, which are even in the individuals, in the hands of the individual, it's political tools, economic tools, diplomatic tools, legal tools, all of these. Boycott Israel. It's very important. There is a lot of the UN reports and the UN officials talking about it's time to boycott Israel. It's time to stop supplying them with the weapons. It's time to stop communicating with all the companies that is working in the Israeli companies that is working and building the settlement in the occupied Palestinian territory. There is a resolution and a list that the United Nations Human Rights Council is talking about many companies that is working or entrenching the footprint of the settlement in the Palestinian territory, which it is against the international law, against the UN Security Council resolutions, against the UN Charter. It's time to boycott all of these companies. It's time to, this is a very political, very legal, and very diplomatic tools that every country that can use it to pressure Israel to abide by the international law, to join the South African case in the ICJ. It's another tool that every country have it.
For the U.S., recently, we also know that in as much as U.S. is a strong ally of Israel, they've also shown the willingness to push pressure Israel to ceasefire. Wouldn't you also say the U.S. to an extent is also pushing on the part of the Palestinian people to ensure that this war ends and life returns back to normal? Do you think the Americans have shown enough support and recognition of the Palestinian people and what they've been through? And do you think with time there's a possibility the Palestinian state can be recognized fully by all people, the international community, especially looking at the United Nations Security Council? The votes, at a point they seem to have gotten some support, even though U.S. did veto it.
When you are talking about U.S. as allies of Israel, this means that you differentiate between both of them. I used to say, and this I'm not revealing a secret to say that, and I already said it in your studio this morning, that this is the United States of America war against the Palestinian people. It's very just or Hamas. No, against the Palestinian people. The United States of America before Hamas, they did not recognize the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, which is the basic right. So can let us back just to some very important issue. You are against Hamas. Are you against the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, which is the basic right all of you in Africa, all of the African countries became a member state or independent state and member state of the United Nations based on this very important and very human principle. The United States of America did not recognize against the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. We have in the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly, in a yearly basis, we have a resolution call for the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. United States of America is against completely. It's not only absent of voting. It's vote against this right, which means that they are in principle against the right of the Palestinian people in the self-determination. Let me just continue. All the propaganda that they are trying to in the media, it's just to throw the ash on the eyes. Just less than 1 week, more than 20 military airplane, American airplane was landed, and this is not my news. You can go to the Time of Israel, Yedioth Ahronot, and all the Israeli newspapers talking about, and they're bringing the videos and the photos that the American military airplane is landed in Israel full of military to Israel. All the weapons, the heavy weapons that according to the United Nations reports, all the heavy weapons that destroyed 60% of Gaza is a U.S.-made heavy weapons. All the airplanes, you know that they are targeting Hamas. Back to say targeting Hamas. When you are talking about targeting Hamas, this means that you acknowledge or you abide yourself by the Israeli propaganda. 40% of the Palestinian who is killed is Hamas. The majority of them, or 70% of them, is women and the child. So that again, you are saying the Hamas, it as excuse, but if you are talking, you are against Hamas. Just 3 days before October 7, the Israeli themselves, the county prime minister, he used to facilitate the money, the supply of money for Hamas from the Israeli airport. So that again, if you want to put Hamas and to use Hamas as excuse to kill and to destroy Gaza, to kill 40,000 Palestinians, 10,000 of them is still missing, and the Arab. What about what about the West Bank? So again, when we are talking the United States, we should not, or at least we in Palestine cannot and should not and will not differentiate between the Israeli occupation and the American support. So that, and this war cannot be to happen the full support. State of America to so that, again, if this is if the America is the honest model, the United States of America is still today is a Palestinian Liberation Organization, which the sole and legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. Even Israel recognizes the PLO as the sole and legitimate representative of Israel. The United States of America is treated it consider him as a terrorist man. So that, again, United States of America is part of the problem. If you want to be more clear, it's the main issue or the main source of the problem.
Right, let's look at currently how are the Palestinians faring in terms of now that it looks like the war is going to come to an end. Is there any genuine effort by the United States, United Nations, and the international community to support the rebuilding of Rafah and the rebuilding of Gaza? What are your expectations of the Palestinian government and the Palestinian people?
You mentioned three pillars in this regard: United States, United Nations, and the international community. As I already mentioned, and I'm not revealing a secret, United States of America is part of the problem, not the solution. United States of America is launched. This war is launched by the full permission, by the full support of the United States of America. All the weapons that destroy Gaza, all the weapons that, all the airplanes that attacking Gaza and the Palestinian people is U.S. weapons and U.S. by the full support of the U.S. So that, again, United States of America is part of the problem, not the solution. When it came to the United Nations itself, I think all of you watch the Israeli ambassador on the podium of the General Assembly when he already destroy and the Charter of the United Nations itself. And in a daily basis, they are accusing Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations itself, as a terrorist and Hamas supporter. Could you imagine Antonio Guterres is a terrorist supporter? So that I think the United Nations itself, to be very frank, there is two main pillars or two main bodies in the United Nations, the Security Council, which is completely paralyzed by the American veto when it came to the Palestinian-Israeli issue or to the Israeli occupation, and when it came to the other pillar, which is the General Assembly, which is the international community, 193 countries or states, member states, is trying to do something, but by the end of the day, what is guiding the world is the logic of power. What is happening these days is the implementation of the logic of power or the jungle law itself. So that when it came to the United Nations, they issuing a lot of reports, not all of the body of the United Nations. There is more than one of the United Nations officials who is assuming a very important office and position, completely turning their blind eyes to the Palestinian issue. Some of them even did not remember that there is what is happening, remember or trying to touch base of what is happening in Palestine. So that this is the United Nations itself. They are trying, but they are, to be very frank, there is a lot of reports, very important reports, that issued by the documented and issued by the United Nations, which is very important for our future and for the international community and for all the researchers to know what is happening in Palestine. Finally, the third pillar, which is the international community. The international community still have a lot of tools if they utilize it, if they use it. Do you think they are willing to use it? Or do you think they're going to use it? There is a big difference between willing or going to use it. Okay. Willing, yes, every country has the full right to use this type of very political, very diplomatic, and very legal tools. There is no one can enforce X or Y of country is not to buy the Israeli occupation. There is no one can enforce any country in the world not to abide by the Council resolution of the boycotting the list of the companies that working and trenching the Israeli settlement in the occupied Palestinian territory, which means that the international community again still have a lot of tools, very diplomatic, very legal, very polite, very non-violence tools that if they use it, they will put the Israeli occupation in the corner and they will pressure Israel to abide by the international. But this is about whether they have the willpower to do it. But the issue is, will they use it? I think that they need to know that if the international community, if the African country, if the Asian country believe that they will, or their country, whether it is today and unfortunately in the future it's coming, I personally believe it's coming, they will be in the row and they will face the same fate, not in a not in a physical level, but in a political level, they will face the fate of the Palestinian people. I think they should, it's a very alarming and very wake-up call for every country to take a very deep look and after the World War II, international and all of this should apply in equal for everyone. No one is safe until
living in Nigeria and across the globe.
Yes, we have a very good community in Nigeria, and some of them is became Nigerian nationality, and many of our unfortunately, what is happening in Gaza is destroying a lot of hospitals. I personally received a bunch of those doctors, surgical doctors, who came from Gaza and now they are working in Nigeria in different hospitals. They have the 25 and some of them 30 years of experience. Yes, we are well-educated people, 98%, not 97, 98%.
That's a big one.
98% is the literacy rate in Palestine. So that part of the war is against the education. 60% of the Palestinian people is living in the diaspora. We are very educated people. We have many things to share it, even here in Nigeria. And my first concern was when I came here as an ambassador is to strengthen the bilateral relationship in the sustainable development issue. We have the know-how of medicine issue, producing the medicine. We have 7 manufacturers in Palestine. Wow. In this very tiny or this very small area, we have 7 medicine manufacturers. 7. So that we have the well-known or the know-how in this type of field. We have the know-how. The very expert. We are very expert in the agriculture issue and many issues. So that part of my work, of course, is to enhance and to encourage the Palestinian people who have the know-how is to come to and to invest here in Nigeria and Africa in large, of course. But if you ask me about my main message to the Palestinian people, it's not only to the Palestinian people, to the whole international community, to the Nigerian people, Christian and Muslims, to everyone. Again, to my people, we are there, we will not leave. We know that we have no other option except to stand firm, to make sure that we are on the right side of the history, and we will continue to resist this occupation by all means and by all tools. To the international community, to the people here in Africa, again, no one is safe until everyone is safe. What is happening in Palestine or against the Palestinian people in the macro level should be again alarming, and a very alarming issue to all of you. Trampling the international law might negatively affect the Palestinian people these days, but the future, or in the future, you will all be, especially the southern country, online on the road.
All right, no one is safe until everyone is safe is the take-home you have to take from Abdullah Abu Sharesh, the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, very revealing as regards the issue, saying that October 7 is not the beginning of the crisis or what led to the conflict, and the fact that the United States allegedly is using the Hamas equation to continue the suppression or marginalization of the Palestinian people. But we are hoping that in the coming days and weeks, peace will finally return to the Gaza Strip, and the Palestinian people will be able to return home. 60% of them living in diaspora, and their greatness in medicine and other spheres of life is not in doubt, as they've got 7 manufacturing companies in Gaza alone. And so it tells you the quality of the people, of the Palestinian people. And we're hoping that the United Nations, the International Committee, would do the needful to ensure that peace returns to the Middle East and to the people of Palestine, and so that the United Nations and the international community would, for a change, recognize and appreciate the people of Palestine, so that there could be peace in the world. That's how we're going to call it a wrap. We want to say a big thank you to the Palestinian ambassador for the great job he's doing, trying to ensure that the world sees the truth as regards the challenges the people of the Palestinian nation has been going through since the 1970s. And like he put it, the incubation of the Palestinian people, and not the war between Israel and Hamas, but the incubation of the Palestinian people. On that note, I want to say a big thank you. Always a pleasure having you in the studios.
Thank you so much.
And so this also giving kudos to South Africa and other nations that have finally recognizing the Palestinian people. And we'll go for a quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be wrapping up Africa's Finest Breakfast Show. Stay with us.
Agriculture is one conversation that doesn't seem to end, and from all indications, it's not going to end anytime soon, because it is the mainstay for many countries across the world, from Europe to continental America to Asia, the Middle East, even Oceania. And then, of course, when you come back to Africa, it is the same narrative. Nothing really changes. Back home in Nigeria, that's the conversation we also have right in front of us. This morning, to help put this in perspective, so we understand where we've been, where we are, and where we are likely going to end up as a country, given all of the indices that we've seen within the agric space. I'm joined by Chief Agbaji Chinedu, former National Director of Administration, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN. He's the Executive Director, Ezocha Farm Services Limited. He's an agribusiness columnist and consultants. I'll say a big thank you to you for, in spite of all the hurdles you ran into this morning, making it down to the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So let's begin from last year, when, like you and I know, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food security. At that point, it was received with mixed feelings. There were those who said, well, there's nothing new about this. It's just going to be the regular rhetoric by politicians, more so the the president. Others say, well, let's give him some benefit of the doubt. Who knows? The president could be up to something, especially in light of the renewed hope agenda. What has been your assessment of this state of emergency of food security the whole time?
As a matter of fact, the food security declaration was seems to have changed things in the agricultural sector. But now, nothing much has been done, you know, because of some reasons. Maybe I would say political will to enforce the food security emergency declaration. You know, let me just paint a picture. If they declare an emergency in this area where we are now, a lot of things will change.
Right.
Now, when they declare, it's not always easy because of vested interests. You know, and not only that too, there are people I call principalities in the Ministry
of Agriculture.
In any ministry you go, there are principalities. But in Ministry of Agriculture, as they declared state of emergency, for there to be an optimal result, I was expecting the minister to do a lot of changes within the ministry. Some directors has to go, some deputy directors has to go. Let there be change. You bring in fresh people.
Even when those directors and deputy directors have not served out their term with regards to the civil service rule?
No, you are not retiring them.
Okay.
You can redeploy them to other ministries. They can go to other ministries. You know, now you then look at it. This food emergency they have declared. Where am I going to start from? You don't have to go in, put your hands in everywhere. No, you look at it. Okay, what has been the challenges? Why are we not having sufficient food in Nigeria? Then that brings us to security issue.
Right.
The issue of security of farmers, security of farmland. You understand? That is where you look at. From there, you look at that. Look at how do we tackle it. Then, the extension services, best agricultural practice. The extension services in Nigeria is not as it used to be before. Then you look at all these areas, and then you go in, take it one by one.
So you're saying that the idea of declaring that state of emergency on food security was not bad in itself?
No,
but the approach was faulty.
Yes.
But let's see what the ideal should be, because this is supposed to be something that one would expect naturally in the case of Nigeria would be midwifed by the Ministry of Agriculture, like you have said. But again, that ministry has several agencies. What should be the ideal approach to this kind of issue, especially for a country that has been battling insecurity on an aggressive scale for over a decade?
Okay. Let me take you on a journey. Just look at it this way. Food security, emergency on food security. How do we go about it? To my own understanding, the way I viewed it, when they declared it, I was happy. Because over time, we've been advocating for us to go back to cluster farming. You know, as they declared food security emergency, now the next approach that would have been taken is the state, the local government, the federal government. When I mean federal government, I mean all the agencies under Ministry of Agriculture.
That's right.
Coming together, going into land preparation. Since they declared that food security, I have not heard that there is a certain number of land has been prepared for farmers to go in. And you know that if there is a land that is prepared, then the issue of security will be taken care of.
Right.
Then all source of water will be there, which means farmers will farm all year round. Now there will be a kind of estate accommodation for farmers to be there. Mechanization, private sector will come in. Government not need even to go and invest in tractor any longer. Because once a land is prepared, when they declare the state of emergency, government is okay, the money we have, let us this land, security issue will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Building trench around 2,000 hectares is part of the land preparation. When you build trench around it, 4 feet deep and 4 feet wide, cow cannot jump in to go and destroy the land. Bandits cannot cross, even if they cross. Once there is security breach and they are after them, if they try to jump back, they will be trapped. You know, so there will be source of water where farmers will farm all year round. Do you know that once this 2,000 hectares of land prepared will make private sector, private people, even in Lagos, if 2,000 hectares of land is prepared in Abuja here, somebody in Lagos will come and invest in tractor to provide tractorization for that farm.
That's just one aspect of the farming.
Yes, tractorization for the farming. Now that person is taking 70,000 to 100,000 naira per hectare to tractorize that farm.
That's a service in itself.
Service in itself. So government don't even need to go and build. See, let me tell you now that if I see a land, prepared land, land, then they will pay it back to government or whoever that invested in that land preparation. You know, then off-takers will do and plant, because you are planting that 110 days, right? You do nursery for some weeks. You know, then you do crop rotation to control disease in the next farming season. And this is what I was expecting when they declared.
I want to ask you the issue of, I mean, you just enumerated several things that have to be done if we're to adopt an ideal approach to this state of emergency.
When I mean government, I mean government at all levels.
To bottom?
Yes, top to bottom, government at all levels. The state, okay, let me say this. Agriculture is rural driven.
Right.
So
it's grassroots based.
It's grassroots based. So the state and the local government should play very important role. The land is owned by the locals. But though the Land Act gives power to government. But then, when the land is available,